Everybody, this is Matt and this is Brett from Mini War Footage. How are you, Brett? How are you going?
Doing well, can't complain. Another hobby talk, always a bright part of my life.
Absolutely. What are you doing today?
Currently, I'm working on some Frostgrave knolls for my Oathmark / Saga army. So it's my 53rd knoll I've painted. How about you?
I'm just doing some scenery for Frostgrave at the moment. So I've got the Cthulhu model from Reapers going on there. So just adding some snow effects to that. So yeah, and some other bits and pieces, another Reaper, cheap and cheerful. But I like cheap and cheerful, and it looks good and it's quick to get onto the table. And I've got some other bits and pieces, chili bottle top statue. So yeah, making some scatter terrain. So easy stuff to do where we're trying to play talk. So yeah, excellent. So yeah, we're going to have another conversation about the games we love. Today we're going to start just have a little bit of a chat about our favourite scenario. I think you've got a couple of straight out of the book, one of the spellcaster ones, and out of Frostgrave, the second edition. It's a core game. I'm going to be all about me and talk about a scenario I wrote that actually I really enjoyed. Quick game, but that's for Oathmark. So it's not very inventive, but it was I just thought, what do I want to talk about? I don't know. I'm going to talk about that because I had a really good fun game with it. So we'll start with you, mate. Let's crack on into what you're doing and go from there.
Well, I have a hard time picking scenarios, I think, for any war game, because I think scenarios add that extra layer of quality to a game. I think it's one thing to bring your army to show, because it's your army. But if you don't have the right scenario, your army can look amazing, but you can have a terrible time still. So I think it's always important. Yeah, I add that extra stress when picking a scenario, especially with a new player.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Yeah, I played a game last night, introduced a friend to Frostgrave. Yeah, I've played it not that many times, and I had to teach him the rules. Luckily, I know the mechanics because they're all very similar in Joe's games. But yeah, so I walked him through that. So we just played the standard scenario, lots of terrain. So, but yeah.
Good enough. And
yeah.
I sometimes want, when it comes to a new player, like I sometimes want to make sure there's some good like creature encounters, so there's not just me versus you, like there's some other elements.
Yeah.
So I always like scenarios that really bring in creatures, and usually like a lot of creatures, or the creatures are really powerful, so it's you versus them versus that or that thing, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I think the three that I have here that I can easily talk about, two of them make sense. One is the worm hunts. I think that's a great one.
Okay, I've not done that one yet, but yeah, I'm looking for a worm suitable for the game. But yeah, cool.
It's better than it's like when you read it, it doesn't sound like much is happening. Pretty much a giant worm shows up on a 16+ on a creature encounter, and you just got to fight it. But when it shows up, it can really change the dynamic of the game. So like when I last played it, I was rushing forward. I was playing a little bit of a better game against my fellow warband friend, and I captured 3 treasures right away. But in doing so, I rolled a 16 first and had to deal with the worm, and I quickly backpedaled in my success and had to fight that. But it was it turned from a treasure hunt to me to a real like worm hunt. Like the scenario and narratively it worked, and I loved killing the worm despite losing a portion of my warband and some of my treasure, and it just became a better game than just me taking the treasure before you do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. The standard game's got some legs to start with, but yeah, you want that extra dynamic is always important, isn't it? So.
And yeah, it's a good game. I would recommend too, if the worm hunts, like I would almost even play with a second worm, if not a third, to make it a real hunt. Like you're trying to maybe take down more worms than the other player, so there's another element to it. The other scenario that I'm sure you played, I think this is like a classic Frostgrave scenario that I think if you haven't played, you should. It's the Mausoleum.
Yeah.
And it's again about creatures, not difficult creatures, but just the fact that from the center of that board, you have skeletons coming from 4 different entrances every single round. It's constantly facing enemies in a good way.
All right, cool. So, I mean, I haven't played that one yet, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm building some skeletons, and I mean, it's a good excuse to go and get some Oathmark skeletons. Really, I bought their I got the Frostgrave pack, so I think it's their Mantic ones, aren't they? Which aren't too bad actually. When Mantic goes, I got a load of their elves. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah. And I thought at first I was like, oh no, everybody's criticising them. Yeah, the elves aren't great, but yeah. So you just basically have hundreds of elves, skeletons just walking through the walls all the time, do you? So is it like every entrance has got one coming in, or? All right.
Yeah, and you like when we play with my friend, you roll to see which of the 4 sides the mausoleum comes on, which is fine. But we play where at least 2 skeletons show up, or 3, because they're only a 1 wound guy.
Yeah, easy to kill. Yeah.
So we have a bit of a mass showing up as opposed to what the rules state, and I think that's just how my friend and I play. We like swarms of enemies to fight as well as each other. So that'd be my only change to this scenario if you want to replay it. But very simple, very easy to understand.
Yeah.
It's replayable. It's good.
So if you had a higher level with wizard band, you were playing it sort of 3, 4 plus, you might, and you've got some big hitters in there with magical weapons. Make sure you've got 4 armored skeletons just piling in every turn. So.
With wraiths or something very simple.
Yeah. That'd be the armored wraiths in it. So that'd be get them chasing your boys around. I suppose if you, can you play that with the? I don't know. Can you use the solo rules with that game? Can you use the? I don't know actually. The solo rules with all of the scenarios in Frostgrave.
I've tried it with my nephew, and he's a bit younger, and he's definitely good at the game, but I think he likes cooperative more. So what we've done, no matter the scenarios, we up the creature encounters. It becomes a bit of a race. So you both start on the same side, and then you roll for every turn if creatures show up. And it's like, we sometimes play it automatically. So like on the Mausoleum, you have creatures show up automatically.
Okay.
Not just the skeletons who show up automatically, but I mean just any random creature encounter from any side.
Okay.
So there's a lot more creatures happening, and our theme for it is that 2 warbands showed up to hunt treasure. They're creating a lot of noise. Creatures are just swarming.
Yeah.
And it's a real fight for survival, because the only way you can escape with the treasure is you both start on one side, and you have to make it to the other side.
Okay.
So it's
that's always a bit more interesting. Not halfway up the table and then back again, where you've already cleared it off. So that's a good idea actually. Yeah, I mean, I like co-op games, and when you get the kids on it, it doesn't have to be super competitive. It's always good to beat a really good friend. Submit them into the ground, but when it's a kid, you want them to win, don't you? So they enjoy it as well, because there's nothing worse than an adult beating a child and being
beat the
8-year-old.
It's not like it's killed, it's that ape that showed up. It's not you. You get away with it.
Exactly. It's unlucky dice throws.
I like it. What about you? What scenarios are you thinking of?
Yeah, so I mean, the one I've most recently played, I mean, I have played some of the Oathmark ones, and I'm obviously done the scenarios for the recent campaigns that we've been trying to run, which is cool. That's good. They've all been fun. My favourite one, just from aesthetically, for me, was my history for my Oathmark kingdom. So part of that is they're running away from the evil that is Cardigan, that is Michael's kingdom. So my prince decides to do a runner, because he doesn't think we should be in league with anybody that's got anything to do with the undead. And it's a bit of a, I don't know, it sounds like it's a communist march to relieve the lands, but it's called the Long March. It is called the Long March. So, which is, I know, I just thought it was funny, but I wrote 3 scenarios up for that, so I could play my fleeing to my new lands, which was actually, yeah, it was good fun. But in the middle, there's a full cavalry battle. So there's 2,500 points of cavalry. Yeah, just everything had to be cav. So it were goblin riders or revenant. We actually ended up it's in the game. It's meant to be elf on elf. It's meant to be the father's household cavalry and the son's household cavalry clash. And then the prince that's running, his daughter turns up with the giant eagles, which are mounted rangers, and they tear into them. A bit Tolkien-esque. Obviously, I nicked that from, but yeah, no, it was absolutely amazing game. It was over quite quickly because because obviously the point wise for Oathmark, the cavalry is very expensive, especially if you've got elf cavalry, it's very expensive. So it's not that many units, but it was good fun. Just a whole 6-foot table full of cavalry.
That's awesome, and it's kind of like I envision it like the vanguard of the escaping army. Like,
yeah, that's what it was meant to. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, it was sort of an ode towards the charge in the Return of the King. Yeah, the riders of Rohan are sitting at the top and he's going clattering along. Because when I went to go and watch that film, I'm a massive Tolkien fan. So when I saw the first film, I go, oh, no, that didn't happen. Oh, that didn't happen. Well, he's not done that. But by the time I sort of got over myself and realised he'd actually done a really good job on it, and that gave me this, I always remember that, it just gave me the shivers. I was like, oh. It just took me back to when I first read it when I was about 10 or 11. And I was just like, oh, that is everything I've ever imagined. So for me, it was like, that's why I wanted to recreate as a scenario. So it's not, it's not, it was a fun game. It's not something I'd want to do over and over again because it's just huge lines of cavalry charging at each other, to be honest. I think we got over and done within an hour and a half. But it was still fun, to get all your goblins out and all that sort of stuff. It's just a good crack. I'll put it up on the Facebook page. I don't know if anybody else has played it, but yeah, it was good fun. And we did a last stand on there as well. That didn't work out so much because I need to rewrite that because it's a long walk up that table for the other player as the elves are standing there firing arrows into them. It was a bit, it was a good idea, but it didn't work. So, but yeah, that's kind of, that's why I love these games. It's just, it just brings everything to life, doesn't it? And you can do whatever you fancy.
Yeah, that's good. You made me, when you mentioned the movies, was it the third one where the Rise of Rohan charged the big elephants?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could do that. You could still do that in Oathmark. You just have this force of giants on the other side or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So, that's. I mean, I think I've one of the things I'm going to do for the channel is there's a lot of player content on the web, on the Facebook pages. So one of the things I want to do is play those scenarios because I go onto YouTube, I have a look at people's battle reports and stuff like that. Range of the Shadow Deep, there's absolutely load of people have done a load of new work, put the time in to do their work. They've used the front sheet that Joe's allowed everybody to use, which is amazing. you know, and so I'm going to go and play through them. And I've got all the other scenarios, and I've played quite a lot of them, and I love all of those. But I just thought, well, let's try these. So
Yeah, kind of the beauty of our hobby is, as much as a lot of these games are Joe's games, but the ability to contribute still is just as plentiful in a way. It just takes someone to pick up and use. And he's got that new Raiders of Shadow Deep coming out.
And I mean, and therein title, you know, that there encompasses everything we talked about, I think. But it's got 4 guys that just wrote some stuff to share on Facebook, and it's gone into. Yeah, I bought the hardback PDF. You know, the deal that was 19. Hopefully, at some point, it's just apparently it's mine shipped, so I'm like quite excited about that. So hopefully, I'll see that soon. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know any other war game. I literally don't know any other war. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm coming from a historical background. I don't know any other set of rules. They've gone, yeah, we're going to take yours and we're going to publish that. You know, you've made this part of your story, and now I'm going to do something with it.
Well, I think what helps, at least for Joe's games, is that I guess Osprey was open to doing this at first, and now Joe's more independent, so he has more leeway in welcoming fans. And I think what made his games great wasn't just he made great rules, is that he's very approachable himself, which is kind of rare.
Yeah.
So maybe someone just came to him with this, hey, here's my scenarios, do you like them? And then he's like, why don't we make a book out of them? And it's that approachability, I think, that makes his games also great. Like, you have a buy-in to the game as much as he does, in a way. Like, you want him to continue.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And you know, actually, I'm on quite a few different games and bits and pieces, and there's not many of I don't see the authors commenting on stuff. There is a couple I am on. Don't get me wrong. They do comment on it. Maybe it's a smaller community. Blah blah blah. I don't know, but it's definitely the authors commenting on, and he's always putting stuff out. It's like, have you seen the bit Bake Off? You must have seen the Bake Off. Everybody's seen Bake Off. Yeah. It's like the Paul Hollingwood shake, isn't it? Joe comments on your work. I know he's commented on yours actually, hasn't he? So, yeah. So I haven't had it yet, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have to try harder. That's what I say.
For me, and then when he did, I was actually like shocked. I'm like, oh, maybe he just doesn't like my stuff, and just accepted it because I'm like, he probably has enough on his plate. And then he's probably just looking. I doubt he's looking through a whole of social media every day. You know, he has plenty of other things to do. So he's probably looking at stuff and then just clicks when he's on there. But I'm not fussed about if he doesn't know. I know my stuff's not as good as your stuff. I know there's lots of guys. This is going to cry for help, is what you're saying. This is a message for Joe.
Yeah.
This video is.
No, not for Joe. No. I doubt he'll even see it. But if the 4 people that are going to watch this, the 4 people I'm going to make watch this, you know who you are. But I mean, maybe one day we do, maybe we don't. You know, there's a lot of content out there for his games. I'm catching up on some of his stuff, so I'm just because. But there's some good stuff out there, and there's some not so good stuff out there. So hopefully we don't end up in the not so good stuff, but you never know. But so I'm hoping soon to be able to get my first Oathmark battle report done. No, my figures are painted. It's my opponent's that's not. So he's a busy man too, like you are. So he's got children, and so he can't dedicate as much time to it as me. So yes, so he's getting there. But you might have to have non-painted figures on there. I know Michael from War Corgi will go into fits, but he's not here. I can't play him, and he's got all his painting. So it's difficult. But so that's my plan, is to get my first report done soon. I keep saying it, but I am going to do it. I've bought some bits and pieces for it. And I've just got a camera steady, so I want to do full reports. So, and then obviously when you get over to Saudi, that's your plan too. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm definitely just preparing everything for that big move, and then once I'm there, I'm hoping to really jump in. I can't wait. Just if you don't mind if I rewind a bit, I have another scenario I could.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, absolutely.
The one thing I'll say is the spellcaster books I think are really good for Frostgrave and for his other games. But I only bought one of the spellcasters physically.
Okay.
With the double issue one, I think that came out at Christmas. I was like, this cover looks
All right, cool.
This book alone has given me a lot of great other scenarios to play, and it's definitely been worth the money. But one to bring up that I thought was really cool in simple rules, but was really thematic and intense for Frostgrave, even for veteran players. It's scenario 4 in the book, and it's called "It Rose from the Bog." And pretty much what happens is you set up these bogs, these little swamp waters for people that don't know what a bog is, throughout the map. And you do rolls for initiative as normal. And then I think it's when you move into the bogs and you have to do a move roll of like TN 18 to even move properly through it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, or otherwise you're reduced to 1 action. So it's a real slog. And I forget what the activation is, but I think at the end of the first turn, I think it's the first turn. Whoever lost the priority roll of that turn gets to set up a bog monster in any of the bogs on the map. It has to be 3 inches away from any of the enemies. And these bog monsters are like armor 14, 14 beasts.
Okay.
But they're not encumbered by the bogs. And it's really cool because you can be getting ahead and get stuck in these bogs and you're slugging through, and then you have to worry about these like swamp things that are attacking you. But it's pretty balanced because in the next round, whoever loses a priority roll then gets to place it. And you kind of go back and forth, but there's a limit so that if there's 2 players, I think you can only have 2 bog monsters max because they're quite tough, but you get experience for it. Very simple rule set, but I played it the last time I played Frostgrave a couple of weeks ago when the lockdown let me, and it was way more challenging and way more fun than I thought. It's good. You want to avoid these bog monsters, but you have to deal with them at the same time to get these treasures.
All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I've seen the spellcasters. I haven't got any of them, so that's quite. Are they? Are they Osprey? They're not Osprey.
I think they're independent, and
He's been in himself. Yeah.
Yeah, drive through RPG, and I think the
right. Okay.
And you get the PDFs or the hard copies, and they all offer something different. Like I know in like an issue like 5 or 4, he offers legendary versions of the specialists. So like legendary knights, and they have special rules, and they're not something I'd always use every game. But if you really want to spice things up and things are feeling repetitive, pick up a spellcaster and start playing missions from there. And there is a bit of a change. And like in this book too, is not only do you have these cool scenarios that he wrote individually, but he has a whole campaign against the Slime Lord, and it's fighting slime. And so there's a lot in it for what it is, for scenarios at least. So.
Cool. That sounds really good because you can get one of those little tubs that they give to the kiddies, tubs of slime, and just put it on, just have it, just dot it around. I don't need to paint anything either. I've just got slime. How did you do that?
I think Joe mentions in this spellcaster, or at least on his blog, that he made some slime monsters out of green stuff and then painted them. And he only realized afterwards that he probably didn't need to paint them.
Green.
There's that too.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Well, that's brilliant. Thanks. Yeah, no, it's, hopefully everybody found that a little bit interesting. I don't know why I did my eyebrows and express my face that way, but there you go. I've been watching too much TV and YouTube.
We all are.
Oh, yeah. But no, it's great talking to you again. Great to see you. Hopefully we can get some people watching this, and if you enjoyed this, there'll be some more coming.
When we get better.
Exactly. When we get better, we're going to get like equipment and stuff and things, proper lighting. I'm going to hire a makeup lady in, or gentlemen. Well, maybe they're cheaper. I don't know. But get to the barbers before every episode.
We got big plans, man. Probably bigger than me, but I'm excited. Yeah.
But to be honest, I've been working from home today, so I was sort of, maybe I should just change out my pajamas at some point as well. So.
Priorities. I get it. Priorities.
Yeah. No, but no. Cheers, Brett, and everybody else, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Yep.